Hey hockey player, Coach Garner here with another episode of Ask Coach Garner. We're on episode 9 now. Time is just flying by. If you're brand new to this series, how it works is I answer all of your guys' questions in 90 seconds or less. If I go over 90 seconds, Kevin hits the buzzer and I'm out of here. So let's just get right into this thing here. The first question that we've got is from Holden Johnson. Could you guys do a diet for off-season hockey players possibly? Yes, for sure. This is something I've talked about a lot in the past. You can find a ton of information over at hockeytraining.com/nutrition. It's a completely free guide that I wrote for you to optimize your nutrition. But also on this YouTube channel, we got videos on carb intake, videos on protein, best foods for weight gain, best foods for weight loss. Use the search function on this channel. All of it is applicable for off-season hockey players. And don't forget, at hockeytraining.com/programs, you can join the Hockey Skills Accelerator and have access to the Hockey Nutrition Masterclass. Next question is from Libor. How often and how much should I be stretching? That's a good question. Hockey athletes, they need to be mobile, but they don't need to be too mobile. When it comes to sport-specific training, specificity applies to mobility as well, because do hockey players need to be more mobile than couch potatoes? Yep. But do they need to be as mobile as gymnasts? Nah, they don't. There's a point of diminishing returns. More mobility only gets you better up to a point because it helps out with your stride length due to the hip, ankle, and knee extension, but also your stride frequency because you're going to open up your hips and allow for a greater stride length and stride frequency between the combination of those two. How often do you stretch? Well, you can see full programs over at hockeytraining.com/mobility, but when you're static stretching, which is holding a stretch, you'd ideally want to hold that for about 15 deep breaths or 30 seconds, and that's something you'd only ever do post-workout. I'm a bigger fan of doing dynamic flexibility drills, such as a knee hug into reverse lunge or something like that, in the pre-workout warm-up area. So you get the flexibility benefit, but you don't have the associated performance decreases that static stretching has been linked to in the literature. Go to hockeytraining.com/mobility for a complete answer on this. This next question here is from Luke. What does a weight gain diet look like? Well, to be in a state of gaining weight, you have to follow the laws of energy balance. Now, there's only 3 possible states hockey athletes can be in at any given time. There's what's known as a hypercaloric state, where you are taking in more calories than you are expending on a daily basis, so therefore you're going to gain weight. You can be in a state of maintenance, where your calories in versus calories out is equal, or you can be in a state of hypocalorism, where your calories in are less than your calories out on a daily basis, so you'll lose weight. To get into a hypercaloric state in a weight gain diet, ideally you would start out with body weight in pounds times 16. And that's a little bit conservative because you can go up to 18, 19, and even 20 if you're running into weight gaining plateaus. But make sure you do get your calories in check and then choose foods that are low satiety so that you don't have any bloating. White rice, steak, oils. Make sure you're having things that are calorie dense. Raw nuts, calorie dense, but do not offer a lot of satiety so that you can eat a lot more of them. Ideally 4 to 6 meals per day as well. Next question here. This is from Jeff. Hey coach, I hear you mention that hockey players should not be on a low carbohydrate diet. Is there any way to make it acceptable? As even though I play hockey, I stay low carbohydrate, high fat for the sake of my acne. When I eat a mass amount of carbs, I will start to break out. Is there anything you could advise me to do in order to keep my hockey intensity and still work to clear my face? Yeah, for sure. So one thing that is linked to the production of acne is insulin increases. So insulin's a hormone secreted from the pancreas in response to high glycemic index carbohydrates, so carbohydrates that enter the bloodstream and cause blood sugar rises, but also to certain foods because there's something known as the insulin index. And dairy is particularly known to rise insulin up very high, even in the absence of carbohydrates. Now, the reason why I point this out is because we have something known as sebaceous glands in our skin that secrete oil, and this oil over time leads to acne, and insulin activates these sebaceous glands. Now, why is that important? Well, if you want to keep your hockey intensity higher, choose healthy carbohydrates. Things like quinoa, sweet potato, and oatmeal should be good for you. And also avoid dairy altogether, because dairy is something that's been really linked, not just with insulin secretion, but with acne all by itself. Next question, Alex Rudle. Hi coach, I love your videos. I'm 49 in pretty good athletic shape and I'm averaging 1.5 points per game. I want to get to 2. What are 1 or 2 things I can do that are specific to improving my overall hockey condition? Well, if you want to improve your hockey condition, you kind of got to look at it in 2 lenses. If you're getting really tired out in the ice, you want to work on your anaerobic conditioning. If you don't have enough time to recover in between shifts and you are still out of breath, then you want to work on your aerobic conditioning. So on the ice, anaerobic conditioning, in between shifts, aerobic conditioning. So make sure you focus on where you need the most help, because that's a 50% thing you need to have in check to optimize total hockey conditioning. If you want to do aerobic work, go to hockeytraining.com/articles and type in tempo runs in the search function, because I did an entire article on a hockey specific way to improve your aerobic endurance capacity. And if you want to do anaerobic training, you got to go to hockeytraining.com/conditioning. I got a bunch of free workouts and a whole guide for you to check out. Ideally, you're going to be doing a lot of sprinting. All right, get after it. Next question, Chris Deininger. Which exercises / stretches / foam rolls would help a 13-year-old player to bend his knees deeply while at the same time keeping his body upright? Is it caused by a lack of flexibility or a muscle weakness? That's a good question, and I'm glad you talked about flexibility and weakness. So the category of mobility is an intersection between 3 things: flexibility, stability, and strength. Because sometimes an athlete has the strength and mobility to get somewhere, but they don't have the stability to maintain it. Sometimes they don't have the flexibility, and that limits their range of motion, so they won't get there. And sometimes athletes just simply aren't strong enough to go through a full range of motion. So mobility is the intersection of these 3 qualities. What I can tell you from experience is, in most cases, most of the time, when young kids can't deep squat, it's because they have too tight of an Achilles tendon and calf. And the moment you elevate their heel, perhaps on a hockey puck, that is going to allow them to get into a deep squat position. If you elevate the heels and then they more easily maintain their posture and get into a deep squat position, then you need to focus on Achilles tendon and calf flexibility, which is can be done very easily with ankle gliding at wall drill. You'll be able to find that over on the Hockey Training Exercise Demonstrations YouTube channel. Just type in ankle, you'll find it. That's what you need to do. Last question of episode 9 comes from Corky Kid 101. His question is, how often should a 12-year-old train and what type of training? Good question. So hockey athletes who are 12 years old can absolutely train. It's something that's beneficial for their speed, conditioning, strength, injury prevention, and just their overall health. But one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they try to treat youth athletes like little adults. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that you can make. There's a structural difference, there's a hormonal difference, there's a attention span difference when it comes to staying focused on training days. There's a big difference in nervous system capability. There's a greater emphasis on stride frequency when you're younger as opposed to stride length. There's a lot of differences that you need to have in check, and you can really learn a lot about this if you go to hockeytraining.com/articles and type in youth. I've wrote extensively extensively on this topic before, but what I would recommend most is going to hockeytraining.com/programs and checking out the youth hockey training programs. If you want some example workouts, we have a ton here on the YouTube channel that you can run the 12-year-old through in order to get their feet wet in this, but a full program is where real results are going to be made, and then you can guarantee safety and effectiveness along the way. All right. Thank you guys so much for checking in on another episode of Ask Coach Garner. If you liked this video, make sure you smash the thumbs up button and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I want to answer your question, okay? There's no such thing as a stupid question. Let me know in the comments section below what you want me to answer in the next episode of Ask Coach Garner.